What's going on, guys? It's me, Max, back with another episode of Offshore Entrepreneur, the program for international business people, investors and digital nomads. In this episode, we're going to look at 3 territorial tax countries that all your friends, your relatives, and anyone that you speak to in the offshore world probably isn't looking at this moment. But nonetheless, the territorial tax system is a great system. It's pretty fair. The countries only normally tax you in income that's derived within that country, which compared to, the European countries, the UK, where I'm from, the US, taxing you like cheeky buggers on your worldwide income. Territorial tax systems are pretty attractive and they allow for quite a lot of wiggle room as well. So, on this program, we've brought you destinations in the past, Paraguay, where I am now, Uruguay, different destinations that have been a little bit more, at one point were off the map, but are now much more in kind of people's cortex as a place that might be a good destination to live. But what are destinations that have territorial tax systems that you probably haven't heard of or probably aren't looking at? So let's get into the video. So number 1, right out the gate, let's not disappoint you. So looking at Africa, one of the frontier markets in Africa, a place that you probably haven't been looking at, maybe haven't heard of. I can tell you right now, this is a great nation, but my dad could not point this out on a map, and I'm just being honest with you, is Botswana. What? Did he just say Botswana? I said Botswana. Botswana is a country in Africa, a landlocked nation, the 4th highest GDP per capita in Africa at the minute. In the 1960s, it wasn't quite a significant level of poverty, but since then they have completely restructured the economy in this system, raised living standards, increased profitability for businesses and the lives of people there. And it is a territorial tax country, so they are only taxing you inside of Botswana on money that's derived from inside that country. It's a landlocked, sparsely populated country in the middle of Africa. Not a country that's on everybody's radar, but it is a country where foreigners can set up companies. An investment within certain sectors of the economy, which last time I checked was about $93,000. You are able to get residency in Botswana and enjoy a lot of the benefits there. So Botswana, we have formed companies over there for people in the past before. But yeah, it's economy in Africa that is very much rising. It's quietly sort of climbing up the ladders of the economic scale, and I think in the future a lot more people are going to have heard of Botswana. Guatemala, another frontier market, a market that a lot of people might look down the nose at, thinking it's not a great destination or place to live, but it is a country where it is relatively easy to get residency. You have to initially come in on a temporary situation, but then later you can change that and you can get a 5-year residency permit, which costs under $1,000 at the moment. So I think that's great. Another great thing about Guatemala is it's within driving distance to the United States. So anyone who's from America is looking for some cheap property or looking for a destination that's not super out of the way because they might want to go back and visit relatives, you've got Guatemala. Guatemala also currently has a top tax rate of around 7%. So even though the country has a territorial tax system, so you can enjoy all those benefits of no taxation on money that's not generated inside of Guatemala, even if you do end up paying income tax inside the country, the top personal rate is about 7%. So it's that, let's be honest, if you're someone like me who's come from the United Kingdom, you're an American, you're a Canadian, or you're someone who's come from Western Europe, 7% sounds like a pretty sweet deal. Low living costs, a lot of Americans have moved down there. And yeah, I think it's a pretty attractive destination, and I do think it's a destination that is going to be on more people's radar in the future. Also, another thing about Guatemala is it's actually one of the few countries that has gun ownership written into the Constitution. Now you're surprised the British guy who knows that, right? But we're always looking at different destinations on here, and I will do a video on this at some point. So yeah, you can, for your gun lovers, you can own firearms. Now don't get me wrong, concealed carry and things like that, it's not a straightforward situation. So for any of you Texans or American gun lovers that want to, carry a Glock around, you can own firearms. It's written into the Constitution, but concealed carrying things like that aren't a straightforward process. So that's a great destination. I think a place a lot of people are overlooking at the moment, but in the future might become, a bit more of a desirable destination for people. Now, if you are someone who wants these exciting kind of opportunities, you're very much going to embody the spirit of people like Joseph Robinson Lindley, a British immigrant who actually went to Peru, in the early 1900s and founded Inca Cola in 1935, now, which is one of the most popular drinks in Peru at this time, and it's a world, it's known on the world stage for being famous from Peru. So if you are someone who wants to live a normal life, if you want the normal things, then don't look at these markets. But if you're someone with a sense of adventure, seeking that a little bit more, these markets are great ones to look at. Now, the final destination that I'm going to mention is Bolivia. Did he just say Bolivia? I just said Bolivia, yeah. Now, a lot of people know Bolivia for being famous for having the indigenous president a few years ago, Evo Morales, or also being a country that was famous and is still famous for producing large quantities of the coca plant, which is illegal in a lot of destinations, used in the process of cocaine. So now, whichever way you look at it, Bolivia is a country that might be worth your investment. Now, anything we look at here is obviously always legal. We keep our heads very much screwed on straightly and we don't do anything that's illegal. However, I will say that Bolivia is a landlocked country. It has about 11 million people and it has quite a different terrain. There are mountains bits, there are more flat bits, and they have a very interesting indigenous culture. But Bolivia is a destination that only actually taxes money generated inside of Bolivia from activities inside the country. And it is a country that has a relatively easy situation where you can get a visa initially for a couple of years, and then after that you can then qualify for either a 5-year visa extension or permanent residency. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, why would I want to invest in Bolivia? Why would I invest in this? Now, the growth rates in some of these countries are much higher than a lot of destinations. And if you are someone who embodies the idea of exploring these frontier markets, Bolivia could be a great destination. Now, despite what you might think, there are some upmarket and nice properties available in Bolivia. You can look online, you can snag some pretty awesome stuff for under $100,000. And yeah, if you want to, operate yourself from Bolivia, even though compared to some Western nations, there's not that much there in terms of entertainment purposes. There are bars, there are gyms, there are things like that. I myself don't need much else, but obviously people are very different, and some people require like a glitzy, glamorous place like Dubai. And while I enjoy and love places like that, I also have absolutely no problem going into a frontier market because I love the kind of raw, untouched nature of it and the exciting opportunities that are there. So if you are someone that enjoys that as well, Bolivia might be a good option. It's an option to consider. Again, it's landlocked, it's right next door to Paraguay. Everyone seems to be coming to Paraguay at the minute. Paraguay is very much in the front of everyone's mind, but Bolivia is not. It also has a territorial tax system like Paraguay does. So it's one of these destinations where it's untouched, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities opening up in the next couple of decades. So if you are someone who likes adventure, it might be an option to consider, because right now, apart from the Botswana situation that can be a little bit more difficult with investments and some of the regulations, the other two markets, Guatemala and Bolivia, are relatively easy to get into. But with the decline of the West that is happening at the moment, my British passport, some of the viewers' American passports, and some of the other German, Spanish viewers' passports might not be considered so good in the future. We could all essentially find ourselves in a situation where, our countries might become something akin to Venezuela. Now, I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but it is always a possibility. So I think if you want to go move to some of these destinations either now or in the next couple of years or get residency there, I think it's a great idea, and I think it's something that, especially for younger people under the age of 35, let's say, or 30, if you fancy some adventure, why not get to one of these destinations and see what you can do? Anyway, guys, I hope you... Offshore Entrepreneur is always here to help our viewers and any people that want to work with us to seek opportunity beyond borders. So if you guys are someone who's looking to explore the uncharted waters of some of these global markets, reach out to us at Offshore Entrepreneur. We can provide residency permits for Paraguay, Uruguay, and many destinations. We can provide company formations, and we can also supply tax planning advice on a pretty much international basis for many destinations. So what are you waiting for? If you need help, reach out to us. I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Goodbye.